seeking to
Yeah.
maintain it, thinking that it was, that it wasn't an evil. That's not the way they felt all the time, and that's not the way that
No.
it ended up, even in their own individual. So it's almost like the timing of everything had what wasn't perfected, but eventually. So
No,
then
because
we lead
we
up
were close. Sorry. Good. Good.
then we lead up to the events that occur in the Civil War, and this is where we get some real nuances happening, because at this point, all of the states are now, they're kind of like the size of countries these days, right? Like the way that how independent they really are, and how much identity there is with an individual state. We don't experience that now. We don't experience now the type of, not just like, oh, Texas pride, or hey, I'm from California, therefore we're a little bit more relaxed, or I'm from New York, so you're a little bit more, one way or the other. The South kind of has that. The Midwest kind of has that. It kind of, but only in kind of culture. The states were full powers, full entities, really, really powerful individually, and therefore their interpretation of what the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution meant was very vastly different. The way that people would, the way that states would allow things like, particularly slavery, and so it became a real big conflict for a family who had been trying to get rid of it for generations, like the Lees, who'd been trying to say, like, okay, I get it,
Right.
guys, let's try to, like, okay, we got independence, now here's the Constitution, come on. And then we've got the Missouri Compromise. Can this go away, and it's almost like we needed in order for it to really go away, it needed to be paid for with blood. It needed to be paid for by it needed to be just bled out.
Right. Yeah.
And so now we get to Robert E. Lee, I think, which is where the conversation becomes very interesting. Tell us a little
It
bit about
does.
Robert E. Lee and how, and his decisions to join the Confederacy. What happens here?
Well, and this actually gets right back to the stories that I heard as a child, which I've then now researched and have tempered a little bit. But basically, what I was told was, well, Robert E. Lee was a Virginian. The Lees were Virginians, and Virginia was succeeding with the Confederacy. And Robert E. Lee, the leader of the U.S. military, the U.S. Army, he was the leader of the U.S. military. He has a decision to make because so it looks like there's going to be a conflict. Um, he's a Virginian, but Lincoln's kind of counting on him to lead the what we would as the Union forces against the Confederates. That's a problem, right? So the story I heard was, and I've researched this, and I think it's generally true. He spent all night, one night, pacing the floor, Stratford Hall, trying to figure out what he's going to do. Like the classic sleepless night. Like, don't even
Mm-hmm.
get in bed. Like, walking the floor, figuring it out, comes to the conclusion in the morning. I'm a Virginian. My family is the founding family of Virginia. We are Virginians. I got to stay with Virginia. And so he put in his resignation to Lincoln, and was then asked by President oh, I just forgot his name, and the Confederacy
Oh, Jefferson
to
Davis.
lead Jefferson to lead the Confederate forces. And that decision, by the way, some have argued that decision was the difference between the conflict being something that lasted a matter of months and a war that lasted a matter of years. That single decision, because he was so respected and people followed him, right? And he stayed, with the U.S. forces, what we call the Union. It's argued that many other people would have stayed with him as well, and et cetera. So it's a big deal. But to get the point is the one you made earlier, which is that people thought of themselves back then as the state that they're from. I'm a Virginian. I'm a Carolinian. I'm from a Marylander. I'm
Mm.
this. People identified with their state, and families generally did. Now, of course, we know some families were split during the Civil War, and you did have sort of brother fighting brother, if you will, which was obviously very painful, because again, these personal views were different about liberty and about states' rights versus the federal government, and about slavery and abolition.